Okay, today we're going to talk about 2nd Nephi 23, and in this chapter, as you see in the heading there, that it's talking about Babylon and the destruction of Babylon, and that it's a type of the destruction at the second coming. So, when we talk about this is stuff that's happening or going to happen very soon. In the world today. It starts out with the words, the burden of Babylon. Now, there's several chapters that Isaiah uses the word, the burden of. We've got two in the Book of Mormon, one here and one about Assyria. So we've already talked about it. It means a message of doom. So the burden of Babylon is that message of doom towards them. And in a way, I think it's a proper way of saying it, that this is their burden that they have to bear and that they have to overcome. If we think that this is harsh when we go through this, we've got to remember that this has happened many times with the prophets warning a people of certain things. A good example is Jonah. When we talk about Jonah and the whale, often everybody tells the story of Jonah and the whale. Jonah was told to go to Nineveh and didn't want to, so he gets on the ship going as far as he can away from it. And then the storm comes, and he says he gets thrown overboard, and he gets swallowed by the whale. It's in the whale for 3 days, and the symbolism of Christ and that. But the story that I really find interesting about Jonah is that he went to the people to prophesy destruction among that people, just as Isaiah is doing here. Now the difference is that the people of Nineveh repented, and so there was no destruction. So when these things are said, people have a choice. This is their burden. This is what they need to do. If they don't do what the Lord asks them to do, to repent and become part of the people of Christ, then they will have to pay the same price that they always have to pay when they're wicked. And so here we have that burden. And here in the second verse it says, "Lift ye up a banner upon a high mountain, exalt the voice unto them, shake a hand." It's just saying, go and tell them these things. This is what needs to be done. Let them know. "I have commanded my sanctified ones. I have also called my mighty ones. For mine anger is not upon them that rejoice in my highness." So, the sanctified ones, I put a note over here. Sanctified ones equals saints. You don't see the note, but you can write notes on these as well, which is quite nice. So sanctified ones means the saints. "I have commanded my saints. I have also called my mighty ones. For mine anger is not upon them that rejoice in my highness." So, showing what is important, what who's going to tell these things, and then it starts to tell what's going to happen. "The noise and the multitude in the mountains, like as of great people, a tumultuous noise of kingdoms of nations gathered together. The Lord of hosts mustereth up the hosts of battle. And they come from a far country, from the end of the heaven. Yea, the Lord and the weapons of his indignation to destroy the whole land." That sounds pretty serious right there. He's letting Babylon know that this is their fate for not following him. Howl ye, for the day of the Lord is at hand, and it shall come as a destruction from the Almighty. Remember, this all goes back to those first chapters where he says, he talks about all of the wickedness that's going on, but that his anger is not turned away, but his hands are outstretched still. And so, therefore shall all hands be faint, every man's heart shall melt. This is how it's going to feel like in the day of the coming of the Lord, as well as what happened to Babylon. And Babylon is a historical fact, and we will talk about the historical bit in a second. And behold, the day of the Lord cometh both cruel, both with wrath and fierce anger, to lay the land desolate, and he shall destroy the sinners thereof out of it. That's a promise. That's something that is going to happen. And it talks about the stars and the sun not giving it shining. And I will punish the world for evil, and the wicked for their iniquity, and I will cause the arrogance of the proud to cease, and I will lay down the haughtiness of the terrible. Those were all mentioned in those earlier chapters that we've talked about. And that's the promise of the Lord in that. And then he says this, I will make a man more precious than fine gold, even a man than the gold wedge of Ophir. This is basically saying that because of all this destruction, there will be less people on the earth, and they will become more scattered and not as many people on the earth, which is kind of a sad, scary thought. Therefore I shall shake the heavens and the earth and remove her out of her place. And and then it says, it shall be as a chaste roe. We're talking about Babylon, but I believe we are also talking about the earth itself in the second coming, so the whole earth. But let's talk about Babylon, because it makes a lot of sense. Chaste roe means a hunted deer. And every man will turn to his own people and flee to his own land. They will try to find some safety somewhere. And everyone that is proud shall be thrust through, and yea, everyone that is joined to the wicked shall fall by the sword. I guess that's why we talk about being separated from the world in the way that we do things. So no matter who it is, they will all be fall by the sword, and their and it gets really scary about the children being dashed to pieces and before their eyes, and their wives ravished and houses spoiled. It's not a good picture, but remember, this is the Lord warning them that this will happen if they do not repent. And I will stir up the Medes against them. I put a note here too. This is 200 years. A prophecy that happens 200 years later. So this is something. This is the history part. this is something that did happen, and it's something that did not just happen the next day with Isaiah there, but this is something that happened something like 200, 250 years after Isaiah lived. So pretty good. This is one reason why he's considered the prophet that he is, that things that he mentioned came to pass in quite a lot of detail. And so it just talks about the destruction here. Babylon, the glory of the kingdoms, the beauty of the Chaldees, the excellency shall be as when God overthrown Sodom and Gomorrah. In other words, it'll be completely destroyed. And here, it's interesting. It shall never be inhabited, neither shall it be dwelt in from generation to generation. Neither shall the Arabian pitch its tent, neither shall the shepherds make their fold there. And wild beasts of the desert shall lie there, and their houses shall be full of doleful creatures, and owls shall dwell there. And these things are, again, history. There are literally cities found in the desert in what used to be Babylon that are just ruins, and archaeologists and other people have looked at them and found great civilization that lived there that we know as Babylon. Yet nobody lives there, even to this day, thousands of years later. And so, again, the prophecies are fulfilled. And then it talks, it goes through all this destruction. And it says, "For I will destroy her speedily. Yea, I will be merciful unto my people, but the wicked shall perish." Again, it just lets them know that he will be merciful. But they've got to follow him. They've got to repent. And that is what this chapter was about. It was about, this will happen because you haven't repented. You are doing things that will elicit your destruction, but you need to repent. And we'll talk more about Babylon in the next chapter.